This week's episode of I Got Nothing is brought to you by arrows. Arrows are very effective for killing enemies from a long ways away. If you're in a situation where maybe you are at a higher position and there's a large amount of enemy forces far away from you, arrows will help you kill a lot of them before they can get you. Stack up on arrows, especially if you're going to go on some kind of trek or something where you're in uncharted territory and fighting enemy force that is familiar with such that territory. What is this podcast called again?
I've got nothing.
Who came up with that?
Your wife.
Ah, shit.
Game of Thrones, the series that ignited a nation, is discussed weekly by two nerds. One, seen every episode completely immersed. The other knows nothing about the phenomenon. Each week, they discuss, debate about what they know and what one doesn't know. This is I've Got Nothing.
Welcome to I Got Nothing, the most unnecessary format of a podcast since Lost was on the air. I'm Colin.
I'm Alex.
And this week we're talking about Season 7, Episode 6 of Game of Thrones, the hit HBO show. This episode is called Beyond the Wall. I've seen every episode of Game of Thrones and I've read all the books.
I've seen almost an entire season.
Yeah, well, not really an entire season because this is a shorter season than the past season.
Caveats.
But you've seen, in that sense, kind of, yeah, you have.
Yeah.
You've seen 6 episodes of a 7-episode season. So,
Counts.
unlike last week, there's a pretty substantial thing to talk about with this episode. So let's just dive right in. What were your thoughts on Beyond the Wall?
Yeah, let's dive right into the most important scene. Well, to me, I guess, is the dragons with the Icemen.
What are the Icemen called? Do you know they
The
have
White
a name?
Walkers. The White Walkers. I prefer Icemen. But yeah, that is what you said everything it would be, which is kind of the biggest scene I've seen so far, to where they definitely, I feel in other battle scenes I've seen in my short period of time of listening or watching this, you felt a change of power and you kind of felt a lot of things jumping, you kind of felt a lot of ranges of emotions going through where I think the majority of the time you're just kind of worried about Jon and the rest of the 6 of them.
And yet again, it's crazy because I briefed you for this episode with the explanation that the penultimate episode of every season is this big set piece episode, and yet this was, by my count, fairly I know the dragon died, and the dragon dying is a big deal, but it doesn't hold weight to seeing our characters die like we have seen in the big set piece battles of past seasons. To the point, Thoros, the Red Priest, died, but we haven't seen him since season 3, I think.
No idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, the guy who died.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. And the redcoats who were on the mission that we didn't see in the last episode also died. So it's bummer and everything, and I'm glad that I thought Tormund was going to bite it for a second. I thought the Hound was going to bite it for a second. I thought Jon and Jorah were all going to bite it. So, good on the show for keeping the stakes high. But in terms of power shift, as you said, we haven't seen a major character get knocked off of the plate or off the playing field yet, which is interesting. And that makes me suspect that the next episode, the final episode of this season, might be long, like a 90-minute episode that has a similar big scene. We saw some stuff in the next on preview that we'll get into later, but I guess maybe I'm understating the substance of the dragon dying and then being reincarnated as a monster dragon. That's huge, but it doesn't have that human stakes element that we saw in episodes like the Battle of the Bastards or the Battle of the Wall or the Blackwater episode. So we'll continue on from there, but it was odd to me that we took the time to pop back to some of our other stories going on in the season, like Arya and Sansa, and yet at the same time, I'm kind of thankful they did, because most of this episode was people walking in the fucking snow.
Yeah, there was too much walking happening. I mean, this was a long episode, and I felt... But again, I don't know how long the North is. I don't know how wide it is. I don't know its distance, because it kind of seems like what this implies from my knowledge is that the White Walkers are just right there. Like, I mean, if it takes them less than, 8 hours to get to the wall, that army's going to be there within the next 2 episodes.
Time, once again, has no meaning. Because in this episode, we have them walking across the snow past the wall for an unspecified amount of time. Mm-hmm. They encounter the White Walkers. Jon sends Gendry back to the wall to send a message to Daenerys. Gendry runs back to the wall, and so we're expected to believe that in the time it took Jon and the rest of them to get stranded on that island in the middle of the frozen lake, Gendry ran back to the wall, told the people at the wall to send the Raven. The Raven flew across the continent, got to Daenerys. Daenerys then flew her dragons all the way back up north. Mm-hmm. Time truly has ceased to really mean anything, in my opinion. And look, I'm not totally against it. I was telling you before we started that it's like we don't have the time in the show anymore for the traveling scenes. We don't have the time for the scenes that we used to have of people on their horses just shooting the shit, talking about what was going on, people on boats. We really need to get to the beat, to the beat, to the beat, to the beat to get to where the season needs to go. Yeah. My concern is that despite this big momentous event episode, it still felt like more push than it was more of a move than a moment. Yeah. It's been a long time. Daenerys bringing her fire down and attacking Jaime and his army was a moment. This felt like it was a lot of filler to build up to the dragon dying and 100%. Being turned into an ice dragon. And if that was the main point of this episode, I don't know why it was so long, and I'm really hoping that we get something substantial in the next episode. We probably will. The finales of all the seasons of Game of Thrones have been pretty great in terms of getting you so excited for what comes in the next season, but I'm starting to worry that we'll look back on Season 7 as the final season, Part 1, in that it was all set up and all filler to build to these final 6 episodes that we'll get sometime next year that will really be the big event episodes that we were expecting.
Like Harry Potter Part 1.
Okay, so let me show you a map here. So this
is he's showing us a map right now of Thrones Land.
So this is the south, right? This is King's Landing. This is where Cersei and Jaime are.
Cool.
This is Dragonstone. This is where Daenerys
they are really close. They're really close. Wow. Oh my god, they're neighbors.
Everything north of this line is the north. So all of this is the north. Here's Winterfell. This is where Sansa and Arya are. And then this is the wall. So our guys were likely way up here.
Okay. Yeah, no, if I was the South, I would not care 1 ounce. Even if this army is real, looking at this map right now, I would not care one bit.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like
just from a land
Martin kind of made a big mistake in making a long continent.
Yeah.
And, in a book, that's okay, but for a show that suddenly went from 10 episodes to 7, they're really stretching. I'm sorry to be that asshole that tries to apply logic to a show with dragons and walking zombies and stuff, but I mean...
I think there's certain constraints that apply, though.
The defining characteristic of this show used to be its expanse. It used to be how far apart all these characters were from each other. Yeah. And that was a special thing because when characters came together in a way, it was really cool. And we've gotten a lot of that this season, and it's been very, very awesome. Yeah. But it's starting to be that's the main point of this. The main thing of this season has just been Jon and Daenerys finally get to hang out. Yeah. And we see where that is going. Dragon dies, gets turned to the other side, so we're setting up for a dragon-on-dragon fight at some point in the future. Maybe next episode, maybe not till the next season. Yeah. And it's kind of just it's too little on both fronts. Like, we haven't really seen... Like, we've seen a lot of the war between Daenerys and the Lannisters, but not enough to the point where... You and I had spoken earlier about... I felt that we were going to wrap up this war in the South first, and then turn our attention to the North. And we've done really neither of either. A lot of stuff still going on in the North. A lot of stuff still going on to the South, and the show has, to me, struggled with balancing the importance of either.
Do you feel like a lot has happened this season?
Compared to other seasons, I mean...
Because as a first-time watcher, from the beginning of just kind of learning where everyone's position is, not a lot has changed.
And I agree, and I break that down by character. You think of the individual characters and, like, what has that character done this season? Sansa has done nothing. Arya did one thing at the start of the season and has since really done nothing. Jon has done something. Daenerys has done something. Jaime has done something. Cersei has done something.
Bran's done shit.
Bran has done nothing. Like, yeah, and so all this Winterfell stuff has to lead to something, and I don't know what it is other than filler to keep those characters busy and let us know what they're up to until something important happens. I'm curious as to why Arya is even still in Winterfell. I don't know what her purpose in being there is.
100%.
And Bran, you notice, was not even in this episode. The shortened season, to me, seems to have really had the issue of they haven't killed off enough of the characters to stretch this few episodes across as many characters as they have to show. And that's saying something, because they've killed off a lot of characters, even in this season. There are entire factions that have been wiped out just in this season for the purpose of us not having to show what they're up to anymore.
Yeah, I'm happy with the number of characters of Dany, Cersei, Jon, Sansa, Arya, and I'm fine with that. Oh, and Jaime, I guess.
Yeah.
I know he's your favorite character. I don't know.
Apparently not. I was proven.
You have stated that you're allowed to have favorites, but when you say favorite, not one of my favorites.
I guess backtracking here, I might move this to the front, but we need to do a corrections department. Last week, I wrongly spoke that Dickon Tarly was the elder brother
entirely.
Very funny. I said that he was the older brother to Sam Tarly. That is wrong. He's the younger brother who was favored by his father, which is why Sam had to join the Night's Watch in the first place. So, my mistake. You had something you wanted to correct.
When we were speaking about when Jaime met with Peter in the dungeon, I definitely said instead of Jaime, Dany, and that wouldn't make sense at all. You definitely tried to change it out of me, but I was kind of mid-rant. And I needed to correct that.
Yeah.
That's all the corrections we have, I think.
Okay, so not so bad. Mostly more on me. Like, you're not at a point yet where you know what even is correct and what isn't.
That's the whole point of it.
And I guess, I don't know. What gets me about this episode is that I got what I wanted. I got Magnificent Seven in Game of Thrones, but you start to realize that concept doesn't hold for very long. Like, 7 dudes fighting off this massive army of the undead can't last that long, just by the rules of the show and the rules by, like, no, this is real. And in real life or death situations, like, being an important character doesn't save you. And so it felt like we had a lot of build up to this big fight that wasn't as engaging as the fights that we've seen. Even the fight earlier in this season where Daenerys attacks the convoy.
That's my favorite fight that I've seen.
And the bummer for me then is we spent all this episode and the show spent all this money building up to this moment that seemed like it could have been much shorter than what it was. Because we were watching it with the group and all of us realized about 5 minutes before it happened that, Daenerys is going to show up and save them. And then, it was not a surprise at that point, which it clearly was supposed to be. And, yes, we did get that tense moment of, oh no, the dragon's going to die, and then it happens, and that's horrifying. But then everyone got away. Everyone was freed. Everyone got off. So that board has not been... other than the dragon, which, again, I'm probably underwriting more than I should be. But all those characters are still in play, and that's important for this war that we're having going on. I thought that we would at least see the end of Jorah or the Hound. Someone would bite it in such a way of like, okay, it is still dangerous to go north. It is still dangerous. And I don't know, I know the show thinks it established that by killing a dragon, which is the toughest thing in existence, but you don't have the level of emotion. You don't have that emotional undercurrent of like, oh no, this character that we've loved for years, like, didn't make it this time.
Yeah.
And so by not kind of doing both and sort of half-assing it, like, well, Thoros died, but it's like no one cares about Thoros.
I don't know who Thoros is. So.
Thoros is the guy who died.
Yeah, well, I
the guy who got bit by the bear, who they burned and was like upset about that, and then bled out later and died.
Yeah,
that's Thoros. Even Barrick, the guy with the eye patch, who I was sure like this was his time. That guy like has been set up for death forever. He even made it, and.
Wasn't that hard of a mission then?
You know, this show has proven time and time again that it has a purpose for all these characters. All of these people are still moving to some kind of endpoint. It's just, it seemed like more of them would hit it in this episode than did. And maybe that's masochistic of me. Like, I'm wishing for characters to die that I don't want to die. I thought Tormund was going to bite it, and he didn't. And that was a...
Well, I think just from a numbers game, you don't go 7 versus... 10,000 and make out with 7, or 6. Sorry.
I mean, so let's get into it because we talked about it a bit last week. This was a dumb fucking plan.
Yeah, no, I wanted to get to that. That is what I wanted to get to.
And it was the kind of thing of like, I thought the point of a shorter season was to blow over stuff like this and to really have a tight writing, and yet this whole thing was we have to have this placeholder stupid reason to get those characters beyond the wall. So that Daenerys can come and save them and lose a dragon. And it just seems like there might be smarter ways to have done that than what they did.
I mean, if we objectively look at it, when Jon was talking to Daenerys, they should have just approached it with, hey, why don't we just grab one of the dragons and drop in?
I mean, that seems the point. It's like, hey, if they're... And you even had in the moment of, like, the dragon showed up and saved them, and the Night King was right there, and it's just, why did not
that upset me.
Sacrifice a dragon and kill them? You know, it's... Yeah. It starts to kind of fall apart in your head in terms of the plan of, like, if one dragon could have carried all those guys...
Yeah.
Then why did they have to... And why did they have to take a boat all the way there? Now, that doesn't matter to us, because... It took them the same amount of time to get there in a boat than it did for her to get there in a dragon.
Boats are fast.
But yeah, it's like... Yeah.
My biggest concern with it is, and I think I said it right when it happened, I was like, I don't think she should bring all 3 dragons.
She shouldn't. And she herself said at the end of this episode that her dragons are her children.
Yeah.
They are her children to her, but she will do whatever it takes to help Jon kill the Night King. And it's like, okay, sacrifice your dragons and kill the Night, like he was right there. And yeah, he was really building up to that throw. Burn him! Burn him!
It was so easy.
And they pointed out, like, if you kill the Night King, he was the one who reanimated all of those dead.
I was hoping we would see more of that.
So if you kill him, everyone that he's reanimated dies.
Yeah.
So do that.
Yeah, well, that was one thing. I think we paused it to go to the middle of the restroom in the middle of it. And the whole poster for this season, given I haven't seen any other poster of any other season, I think last season there was a bunch of people with their eyes closed implying that people would die. But this season it was just the Night King, and it's just his eyeball. So I thought he was going to be playing a bigger role in it. So I'm curious why they chose that art, because this season really has... I feel like this season has been more about Dany than anyone else.
And you know, there's a good reason for that, because she is finally in play. I told you before, she has been on a different continent for the entirety of the series. All of these characters, most of these characters she's meeting have, like, she's never seen before. She didn't even know of their existence. And so it does make sense to follow her, because she and Jon have been the closest this series has to a main character for a long, long time. Mm-hmm. But... yeah, I don't know. The whole thing just seems to be like, if you start to talk about the plan, it really falls apart. So you just kind of have to let it happen. And, you know, we complain here, but we don't want the easy solution, because we want that big battle that we know is coming, where all of our characters have to put aside their differences and fight the common enemy, which I guess leads us to, like, what is going to happen next episode. I don't think this big meeting is going to go well. I imagine that if there's a big fight in the next episode, it will be among the living humans and not among the people in the north. That's my prediction. what else happened? There was the Sansa and Arya stuff, and then the Tyrion and Daenerys stuff. Was there anything else that we saw in this episode that wasn't related to those three stories? Because it seemed
No, they kept it. I mean, other than the big fight, those were the two things that we stopped on.
What is going on with the Sansa Arya stuff? Do you know? I can't pick. It seems so
petty, useless.
It just filler. Not important. It seems so low stakes compared to it brings us back in season 1 when Arya and Sansa last saw each other.
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you're talking about. No,
you don't. Yeah. They reference it. It was a lot of petty sister shit of just they were different and they didn't like each other and they were mean to each other. But so much has happened now, and it brings me back to that whole let's have, even if it doesn't happen, let's have it explained that these characters sat down for 4 hours and told each other everything that had happened to them so that everyone's on the same page. All this stuff going on between Sansa and Arya seems to just be they don't know what the other one has been through, and they're not willing to sit down and listen to them talk about it. So they're just kind of at odds for that reason and that reason alone. Yeah,
there was that bit where I think if we revisit the whole mask situation, Sansa's response shouldn't be to her little sister being she's fucking crazy, but I think it should be we should probably have a talk about this, because you've been through clearly a lot more than I know.
And it's been established, not that you've seen, but I mean, you have kind of seen it, that Sansa doesn't trust Littlefinger. She has no reason to trust. It shocks me that anyone is not stopping and be going, well, this is probably Littlefinger doing some kind of scheme. Let's go get him. And I thought Arya giving Sansa the knife was sort of leading to Arya knows that this is all set up, but she won't do Sansa's dirty work for her.
I think so.
She knows that the only way to get rid of Littlefinger is to have Sansa do it, because that totally eradicates him. She doesn't miss him. She doesn't wish that she had him around to advise her, which is kind of smart. But I don't know, if that bit isn't resolved and moving on to something more important by next episode, I'm going to be upset, because we've spent a lot of time.
I mean, again, the very first scene that I've seen of Game of Thrones with Arya just laying waste to an entire house. Absolutely, she inspired me.
And where has that been? She's been just hanging out at Winterfell for the rest of the season.
Anyone meets Ed Sheeran, they just kind of get lazy and run away. That's the only logical conclusion I can come to here. But yeah, other than that, I don't know. I think I'm over that storyline. I'm over anything that isn't let's resolve something with Cersei and fight the North.
Yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it just seemed that I didn't think that the last episode ended with anyone agreeing to meet with Cersei. We knew they were going to go get the thing to show her, but this episode, everyone is preparing to go meet up with her. That's been decided it's going to be done. Mm-hmm. And is that Jon's plan? Is it Tyrion's? Daenerys has no reason to do it.
What if... I was thinking this early in the episode of what if Tyrion has another thing in mind that we... because he doesn't seem a person to make dumb plans, and if we all kind of agree that this is a dumb plan, then maybe there's something else.
Which would make sense for that character, but we haven't seen him make that decision. He met with Jaime to tell Jaime to convince Cersei that the White Walkers were real. Jaime knew that wouldn't work. So Tyrion then came up with the plan, if we bring this thing to Cersei, she'll believe it. But there was never the thing of we're all, once you get the thing, the White Walker, bring it to this place, because we're all going to be there for this big meeting. I don't know.
It didn't pass the smell test for me.
And we may start next episode with an awesome scene where all these characters come together, and it's this big, dick measuring contest of everyone just laying out their problems with everyone. It could be awesome.
John's would be the biggest.
And we won't care anymore about this, but it's rare for an episode to fall flat to me like this, especially what is supposed to be one of the event episodes of the season.
You wanted more people to die.
I just wanted to feel more. I was genuinely worried, and so I guess I'm being a little harsh because I was invested and I was worried. But the first half of the episode, I was kind of just we know what's gonna happen. We know that there's gonna be a point where they're all set up and stranded. Why are we waiting 50 minutes to get to that point?
And build up.
And yeah.
Yeah, no. When we paused the episode midway to use the restroom, I was shocked that we were halfway through.
Yeah.
And nothing. It didn't feel like any. I don't know. I'm trying to get from it from a different perspective, but from my knowledge, I'm kind of the opinion starting out this series that there's too many characters that I don't know the names of.
And then you don't know the names. I'm about to say, like, too many characters, like, maybe you're right, but compared to, like, the number of characters that we've had in the past that have slowly been knocked off to the point where we really do just have kind of 3.
I want 7 tops. And, like, if we could have killed
You're watching the wrong show.
Yeah, clearly. But I really thought this was a chance to kind of knock at least 6 of them, 5 to 6 of them down.
Well, and maybe we're being too harsh here, but it does seem like this is a show that sells itself on the point that, for dramatic reasons, any character can die at any time. There's been surprisingly, like, not as many main characters dying this season as we've been used to. So you thought that this big episode was going to kind of be a culling of some kind, and it wasn't.
No, everyone that I've been introduced to in these 5 hours that I've watched, or 6 hours that I've watched this show.
Probably closer to 7. Most of the episodes.
Yeah, it rounds up. So out of all of that, I can't say anyone important's died. At least important to me.
Yeah.
I guess Danny's armies in the very first bit were important, but I didn't know who any of them were.
But and so what's up with that? Because we saw in the preview for the next episode that the Dothraki and Grey Worm are back together, but I thought Grey Worm was stranded over in Casterly Rock. So is it going to be more of just people jumping around of just like, oh, that was important 2 episodes ago, but we fixed it and didn't show you? I don't know.
Yeah, there's some loose ends to tie up for sure.
Yeah.
But with that, I think we should jump into our next sponsor.
We have a sponsor?
Yeah, they give us money. I think we've been kind of distracting them. It's not right. We need to make sure that we get paid.
Who's our sponsor?
So this week it's the Thrones Land Olympic team. So currently they're searching for one very strong spear thrower, preferably someone with 10 to 12 years experience. Really knows a lot. Can do things in any weather, any kind of circumstances, with really precise aim. They're going to be holding tryouts next week in Thronesville.
I thought it was Thrones Land.
No. This is a town in Thrones Land.
Oh, okay.
Thronesville. It's going to be from 8 to 9. So bring your sharpest, most accurate spears. And hopefully maybe you can get a spot on the Thrones Land Olympic team.
Yeah, I mean that was probably the highlight of the episode, just because like that was when you were the most scared, right?
Yeah.
Like he was gonna fucking throw that thing, and the dragon died.
Yeah.
That's so crazy.
That's wild. And I mean, when I'm thinking about it, is so there's 3. I think in the recap they said weapons of mass destruction. I think I've referred to them as that before, and like now you're saying there's 3 of them, and there's 3 factions. One of them has 2, and then one of them now has 1. Like, you literally are playing with fire, and it can get dangerous. So, I mean, we are playing down the significance of that, and I think it's important, but I think it's an implied importance that I don't think needs to spend a lot of time on, because you know it's gonna hit the fan later.
But I wonder more if it is because like I don't know, it's fire versus ice here. Like the dragon breathing fire is probably going to easily kill the dragon that breathes ice.
Well, is it gonna breathe ice? I'm kind of hoping it breathes blue fire.
I guess we'll have to see.
Yeah, because that's I'm thinking it blows a hotter heat is what I would imply from it. I think a dragon blowing ice seems inefficient.
Yeah, well.
We'll find out.
Were there characters whose names you learned in this episode? I know we've fallen away from that format. But.
Well, no, I think it's still something good that we circle back on. And not really. You keep mentioning the guy who died. I can't remember who you're saying. Mainly because I didn't write down.
Thoros.
Don't know who's
Thoros
his name.
the Red Priest.
Yeah, no. Oh, he's the one who died?
Guy with the fire sword.
Cool. That was awesome. Well, there are 2 guys with a fire sword. One of them was Sir Jorah.
Yeah.
And then I guess he died too. And then I know Hound, and I mean the rest of them were generic North old looking dudes. Version 1, 2, and 3 to me. I'm sorry if that's offensive.
So next week we have the final episode of the season. What happens?
I kind of hope another battle.
Yeah?
I really do. I mean,
Between who?
Between Dany and Cersei, because then my prediction comes true. Then Cersei dies.
Yeah.
I'm really hoping in some miraculous way. This is like fourth quarter, 2 minutes to go, and somehow I pull it out. So that's Colin doesn't know sports a lot, so fourth quarter I'm talking about.
And I understand what a fourth quarter is.
Anyway, so yeah, that's my hope. Is I hope it's not just dialogue and kind of them being like, we should fight the North. Like, I don't think Cersei doesn't seem the type to just like practical alliances.
Yeah. No, she doesn't.
She doesn't strike me as that type of person, so I don't see this ending in any sort of let's go gang up against the North. Like, I don't think that's happening. I won't put that.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
What if Jaime dies?
That would be a bummer to me, but I mean, it's like he more than anyone else. I'm surprised he's lasted so long because like he knows, like Jaime understands that like he is really on like more than anyone else. He understands he's on the losing side because he's on the side with no dragon.
He's literally said it.
And his sense of like logic dictates like we should do something, but his sense of loyalty dictates like no, we're gonna fight till we die. So like hopefully this next episode is that final breaking point for someone and we see what happens when they're pushed beyond that. But other than that, I mean, I hope we go out on a high note for a season that to me has been a little up and down.
I think it's been Harry Potter Part 1.
That's perfect. That's exactly what it's been.
A lot of setup. Given I don't know what they're setting up for, well, I get the idea of it, but it feels like a lot of setting up for me.
Yeah. Anything else?
I don't have anything else. That was the main notes.
Yeah, I mean, I guess this is despite like probably the most eventful episode of the season, like our least eventful podcast, just because we mostly complained.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's some good takeaways.
Yeah.
But I think again, it just all feels like setup.
Well, I mean, next week we're going to need to decide what we do after the season ends.
Yeah, we need to figure that one out.
Well, so that'll be part of a discussion. But other than that, I think we're wrapping up here. I'm Colin.
I'm Alex.
And this has been I Got Nothing.
Hey.